Christ forever is my refuge, rock of ages, cleft for me. Oh, my love and
So the church was still operating, ministry was still happening, and we were getting more and more reports of this, and we were communicating this throughout the conference that, look what this church is doing, look what that church, look what they're doing in this community.
So time frame from the fire to COVID, the fire was on November 8th of 2018, and then COVID hit March of 2019. You know, we were mid-recovery trying to gain traction, and COVID shut everything down again. So it was kind of a double blow for the Paradise Church.
So our first objective was to bring everybody safely, physically distanced through this pandemic. That was our first. Our second, equally important, I would add, is a spiritual care for our members.
It just reminded us that the ministry, that the church is about people, and the church is going forward, even if we're not able to come together like we traditionally have in a congregate setting where we're sitting in, whether it's a pew or a chair in a room, ministry is still happening. To the extent that one pastor said, we're doing so many things now in the community, I hope we never open the building back up.
And few knew about Zoom, so we had to get in contact with each family member. We have to call them up. We have all the elders and the church board trying to get in contact with the church members. And then we have to make some training, equipment, like audio, cameras. It was a long process.
It was a little bit rough because the average age at Santa Monica is rather high. And so our folks had to get used to using something that they'd never had in their hands before.
We have a mission field here before us, and we really believe that in order to live out the principles of God's kingdom on earth, we need to be coupling our religious speak with action. And so before pandemic, we were doing all kinds of things to engage the community here locally, things like self-defense course. But a lot of those opportunities went away. And in place of those, we've got the grocery drive-through now, where we see 150 to 300 cars come through our parking lot every other week.
And we don't want to just talk about it. We want to actually be about doing the work of the church, which is affecting people's lives on a practical level and a daily level.
And there's only so much you can do. Yeah, Zoom is fine and FaceTime is okay, but at the end of the day, or at some point, they need that personal interaction, being able to see each other, laugh and talk and smack somebody on the back and give a hug or a high five. You know, the students need that, the kids need that, and you know, we as adults also need that.
The persons who got more affected by this sickness were the youth, little children and teenagers. I have a teenager myself, and I could see in her that she changed. She was more like sad.
It was very awkward. It was really weird at first to have to go online and see church. And whereas I made it work for me, it was just not the same being there.
My Zoom class started growing, and other parents started getting impacted. Families that were not necessarily planted in the church at the time.
it was a bridge to keep the group together. There were some unintended consequences of that, which were rather beneficial. As we met for Sabbath school, followed by worship, everybody eating breakfast and doing whatever they wanted at home, enjoying themselves. Following that, we would open it up and just ask how your week is going. And we actually got to know each other a little bit better than just a handshake at the door.
And up until that point, I was leading a few children in the Sabbath school class. But once COVID hit, I felt like I was called to do something more. And so I rallied the kids and their parents. So I involved the parents in my classes.
So my daughter and Janet, who is the one who teaches Sabbath school for kids, they've been growing together. Isabella came to her birthday at church, just a birthday celebration. And she never stopped coming to the church since that day. She was coming Saturday after Saturday.
She agreed for Isabella to join and attend our classes. And during that time, she started listening to the message, and her life was affected too through COVID. She was scared, she was panicked. Without any ulterior motives, kids don't have that, brought her into the faith, little by little. And we just celebrated her baptism in December.
She made it first, and then it was me. And actually the day that I got baptized, I dedicated her because obviously she wasn't dedicated because I wasn't in that path. So the same day we both did it.
But yet there was still the lacking, the slow erosion of the human interaction, the touch, the greeting, the friendship, and the encouragement we get from being with each other.
I know some people really leaned into their faith and really looked to the Lord and really felt that they were part of those end times that we've always talked about before. And it was an awakening for some. But for others, it was very demoralizing. People lost hope. And even some of those that did, we haven't seen them come back.
Where the whole world was falling apart and we thought things were going to get grimmer and grimmer, I think that really elevated and stepped up my faith, because now I had something to say. Now, Lord, what am I doing? I'm going to test you on this. I'm going to hold on to you and see where my faith leads me. And He led me to here.
For me, I would say, the Bible's already talked about there's going to be pestilence, going to be war, going to be a lot of confusions. So I would say, this is not new to us as Christians, but we face the reality of it. There's one thing of hearing and reading about it, but this is it.
But with this pandemic, it's just a little proof that we can be saved with God, because this is like, this is the test. Okay, are you ready for what is coming?
We are seeing prophecy fulfilled, and we know where we are in the stream of time, and yet there's been a lot who have fallen away. I think our numbers have dwindled, to be honest, but hopefully the ones that are remaining are stronger than ever, and ready for staying close with the Lord.
I found that during the most difficult time that probably most of us have seen, I found Jesus. So I found my peace, and it was for me like a blessing in disguise, I would say.
A listening ear and an understanding allows us to reflect on the struggles ahead and find the help we need. The Bible called it discipleship and caring for one another, walking alongside, listening and loving. It's the challenge before us to appropriately re-engage, that our souls will be fed and will be able to help others.
On a spiritual level, it has helped me because I appreciate life more than I did before. If you understand what I mean, I appreciate my loved ones. I cherish the time I'm with them, the telephone calls, and the gatherings. I find that I'm living from day to day now to show the love to people that I care about.
For me, it was impact for good. This sickness teach me a lot of things about being grateful.
Now we have a new normal. People still, aware about this COVID topic, and when they come to, Saturday service, they, keep distance, how they interact between them. I think we never going to back to that, what we call normal, correct? But from, how the people is moving in the church, how they growing in their faith, how they participate, I think, I see everything working better now.
Discipleship was still happening. What's the role? What's the purpose of the church if it's not to impact people's lives and transform people's lives for the kingdom of God? That was still going on. And I love that because it just kind of reminded me that you can't keep God's people back. We serve a mighty God, and ministry is still taking place.
In crisis, you have shared experience. So to some extent, crisis is a gift to the church that it has been clamoring for, and that is shared experience.
I feel excited about moving forward. It seems that the pandemic bring the best out of our people. I'm not saying there was no sadness, but people grow and discover their spiritual gifts per se during the pandemic, when if we work together as a strategic plans to funnel that sphere into a productive outreach and bring the people together. I'm hopeful for whatever's going to come in the future, because this set us the mindset of member. Hey, we can survive by staying active, connected, and translate our teachings into practical applications of life.
Especially if we can get through these past 2 years the way we did, there's nothing we can't get through. I feel like personally my faith is that much firmer because I've seen it, I've lived through this. This is something that we can tell future generations, like, this was quite the time, and God is real, and He was with us, and He pushed us through.